Hi, it's Gitanjali again from High Definition You, and I am thrilled to welcome the wonderful Kathryn this week to talk about your experience with the Inner Circle. Welcome, Kathryn.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about who you are in the world and what you do, personally and professionally.
Sure. So I'm Kathryn. I'm a banker, I guess you could say. I work in international business development. At the moment, I've travelled around a bit with work. So lived in Spain, lived in Brazil, and I've got two children as well, quite young, 2 and 3 years old, and we live in Scotland, in Glasgow.
Spinning a lot of plates, spinning a lot of plates.
Yeah, quite a few.
Tell me what some of those plates were. What were some of the challenges when you started with the Inner Circle?
Well, I was just coming back to work after having the children, and I guess I'm quite old for a mum as well. I enjoyed my career, the travel with work, etc. So all of these things were just playing havoc with my mind, and I was kind of doubting myself, doubting my abilities. I was feeling a little bit fearful about young and up and coming intelligent kids, and who had no ties, and they were just going to kind of railroad right over me, and I should just kind of wither up and die and curl up under a wee rock somewhere. And that's exactly how I was feeling, and I knew that wasn't right. I just kind of didn't really know how to get myself out of that mood.
And was there any resistance to joining and undertaking the coaching?
Well, yes, I guess the cost kind of was kind of put me off at the start, although I was fully aware that for kind of a quality service I would have to pay for it. So that's where I guess the group coaching possibility really fitted super well with my kind of idea of what the kind of value the cost reward was going to be for me. So that I thought that was a brilliant idea, and I just went for it. It's quite easy after that.
Love that. So how did you overcome the resistance, and what made you say, oh yeah, actually, okay, I'm going to do it. It's worth it.
Well, I'd kind of made a decision anyway that I was going to seek some kind of support outside of the bank, because my employers have got a multitude of support in house that's very generic, and you can race through it in 10 minutes, etc. And it's designed for everybody to be able to understand everybody, for it to suit everyone. And I knew that was not going to satisfy my desire to look into myself and really reprogram myself to get back to the way I was before, and or even better, in fact, as it ultimately turned out to be. So it was a no-brainer, really, Gita, when you consider all those factors. Yeah.
Tell me a bit about what has changed then when you say, get back to who you were and actually a better version of that. What are some of the results that you've seen through this coaching time?
Well, gosh, I'm much calmer, much more relaxed, much happier in my own skin. And I look forward to the bi-weekly meetings that we have, and just kind of focusing on myself for a couple of hours a week really is such a good thing to do. It's not self-centered at all. It makes me a much better mum, a much better worker, absolutely, and a happier person. So that's just brilliant in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about in your professional life or in your employer's eyes? Like what, Kathryn, if your business was to buy this for you, if the bank was to say, yes, we're going to invest in you and others in the team, what is the bang for their buck that they would get as a result? What's the ROI?
Well, the most important thing for me in work is that I now know that I've got the answer. And I know that probably seems strange to people just listening to this. There's a lot of pre-work that goes into understanding that concept. But before, I didn't know the answer. I had absolutely no clue what was going on. But if you've got a whole raft of people who now have the confidence to know that deep down they know the answer, it's just going to take a little bit of time. Then you're going to have a calm workforce, you're going to have a peaceful workforce, you're going to have a happier workforce. Who'll probably work together with less confrontation, because they'll be satisfied with their own abilities.
Mhm.
And I don't know how you can, I don't know another way how you can achieve that.
How have we achieved it? How have you got those results in terms of how we've worked together?
So through the various exercises that we've done, some of which have hit home probably more than others, you know, there have been very common sense approaches to different issues that might have been quite specific in the lives of my life or our kind of co-possibilists' lives. And over time you realize actually, we are built to cope with these situations. These are not new. Um, they might seem kind of new at first, but the underlying concepts are all very, very similar, and we just know how to do it. And it's hard to explain now because it's something it's as if I've just opened up that aspect of my mind to be aware of the fact that actually I do know. Maybe not at this second, maybe not tomorrow, but it will come. The answer will come, and I'll be able to cope.
Mm, mm. Can you take me to a moment when you knew the coaching was working?
Yeah, there's probably been a few. There was a kind of a situation not that long ago actually where you were providing me with some coaching, and I think it was to do with eating. Sure, it was to do with eating. It normally is, and I comfort eat, and I know I do, and I'm very aware of why I do it now. And I think it's one thing to be aware of it and why you do it. It's quite another thing to be able to kind of sit back and say, right, I know that I want to be a healthy, happy, elderly person who's fit and can go cruising and do all those wonderful things that people do and see my grandchildren. So from that place, what do I choose to do about my healthy living, healthy eating, exercising now? And that's a completely different way to look at it in my mind from just saying, oh, that's naughty, don't eat that, or better go to the gym now. If I think about what I actually want to get to, then it's an easy decision. And I can decide to eat a chocolate bar or not go to the gym that day, but I completely understand what the impact of that's going to be. And I
Mm,
can sort it out tomorrow or the day after. So it's
mm.
a much more relaxed and aware approach to foibles, I guess, that I've got.
The foibles. I love the word foible.
It was definitely an aha moment, that one.
I love that. Can you take me to an aha moment or a moment when you knew the coaching was working when you were working from a professional perspective?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's maybe a little bit more difficult to do. there's been a few challenging situations. So I guess if you get it when I receive negative feedback or what I would consider less than positive feedback about something I've worked hard on, um, prior to the coaching, I probably would have felt very hurt for a good few weeks,
Mm.
and I would have had a good chat with myself and talked myself around and gone back into the office the next day and you know dealt with it. But I would have been deeply hurt and like, why have I failed and all this kind of stuff. Now I know that I haven't failed. It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to improve. It might have been a bad day on behalf of the person that delivered the less than positive news. There's a whole variety of variables now that are open to me to understand. Actually, there's a 360, I guess it's like a 360 view of what happened in that situation. And it wasn't all me, it wasn't all directed at me, it wasn't because I'm useless. And I guess from that perspective, that really helps me to grow, to understand other people, how we interact. It's a much deeper scenario and an opportunity to learn, which I appreciate now.
I love that. It is, as you said, a group format, and that is different to one-to-one coaching. What has surprised you about that group format?
Oh, definitely the fact that we are not alone in, in feeling these things. There's always somebody saying, "Yep, I've had the same. Oh my goodness, that happened to me." So it helps you in the first instance, because you know that you're not the only one feeling that way. And then you have a laugh about it, whatever, and that obviously diffuses a lot of anxiety that you might have otherwise. And then it's not only your coaching, but it's other people's kind of ways, tried and tested means of dealing with things that you can have a good discussion about. And it's there's a lot of trust in the group as well. So you build that very quickly, that rapport. So it's an easy environment to kind of download into.
And how does it work, given that you're all across different industries? There is banking and marketing and media and technology and recruitment. And how does it work, given that you're in different industries? You're more senior than some of the others in the group. Talk to me a little bit about what the benefits are of that, or how it works for you.
I guess the industries don't really come into it at all. We're all human, and we all have to work with other people, and so the same kind of situations crop up. We don't get into detail, of course, of the business situations that we're in, so it's very high level, and it could kind of be across all sorts of industries. In terms of seniority, there are also people in there that are more senior or have been kind of more successful in various different ways, as I would describe it, than me as well. And so I think it's great, because then if I've been through a situation that somebody's facing for the first time, then I can support. And likewise, if it's me who's going through something for the first time, then you've got a wealth of understanding and experience there, to say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about, how about this? And giving me some tools and some ideas how to handle situations. So I think that works really well.
How does it differ, do you think, from, you may have had this as well at Santander, the idea of team coaching that's often done internally? How does the inner circle differ from something like that?
Yeah, so I don't think we've had coaching so much as training on a group basis with group activities, etc., which is all kind of fun. And I always say, if you take away kind of 2 or 3 key lessons or learnings from that, then it's great. But it's more to do with, I guess, the coach or tutor downloading on new ideas, new concepts or products or whatever information that you don't otherwise have. However, with the coaching, I find it's more about understanding that you've already got the knowledge within. It's nothing really new. It's just tools and exercises and concepts to help you release that understanding and kind of let go a lot of the restrictions and the stresses that we put on ourselves because we think we've got to be a particular way in the world. And so I find it, instead of, oh my gosh, I've got to remember this, it's much more kind of just a relief that, hey, I actually do have this knowledge already, and I've got this.
And it's obviously a time commitment, and oftentimes, in business, I'm struggling to think of a business that I would work with that doesn't have, a lot on their plate, and clients who are juggling, as we said, spinning lots and lots of plates. What is the time commitment for the inner circle?
So it's 1.5 hour session every couple of weeks, which I really enjoy, and I get to as often as I can. If I miss it once, it doesn't really impact my learning. It's more it's an important time for me personally to just reflect about what's going on in my world and how I can look at things differently again, and to remind myself, because it doesn't all come quickly. You're having to unravel 40 years of mislearning from when you're a baby and your parents start to tell you things that are probably, I would understand now, are not the best things that they could have told me, although they were trying their best. So you're having to unravel all that, so that the 1.5-hour session is just enough, I would say, and I can work my diary around it. And there's also a kind of a form that you fill in on a Monday morning, which takes me 5 minutes, which I love to do because it just sets my mind and kind of guides me for the week ahead, and while I'm having my coffee, and doesn't seem quite so daunting then, so that's good.
How do you find it in terms of motivation? And you said, sometimes I miss a session, and obviously they're recorded, so you can always look back. But what is it that's different about this inner circle versus, I go back to my corporate days where maybe it was like, oh God, I've got to go to that training, or oh, I've got to show up for that session. What keeps you motivated to show up?
I think it's learning more about yourself. It's definitely learning more about myself, and giving me the relief and the kind of comfort that you've got this, and you're doing great, and how about try this next week, and I've got something to play with over the next week to see how that impacts in my work life and my personal life. And it definitely recharges me for the next couple of weeks ahead. So it's like a battery recharge. It's super important for me. That's why I go to it.
How do your clients benefit? You said how the business might, because it's, getting happier, healthier employees that are calmer. And what does that mean actually in terms of maybe a client relationship?
Yeah. It's definitely about what's possible. And the businesses that I deal with are really breaking the boundaries of what other people think is possible, and they're seriously fantastic, business people that are at the peak of their careers, of their industries, and they do amazing things. So they don't want me to be a stick in the mud, computer says no kind of person. I've got to adapt. I've got to understand that they are individuals, that they have their own wisdom and their own understanding of the world and how it operates. And so I guess maybe the old-fashioned ways of dealing with these businesses would be to dictate this is how it's going to go, and this is the rigid format of how we're going to work together. Whereas with me, I kind of hopefully understand that these individuals are individuals, and I need to kind of take them all as they come, and work with them as they wish me to work with them, within the realms of what's possible, of course.
What is possible? What is possible? On that side of things, there's a lot of strategy at play, in businesses. Obviously, that's leading the direction of where employees are being asked to spend their time. How does something like the inner circle and coaching fit into strategy for an organization?
Yeah, so the business where I work is all about partnering with our customers so that we become an integral part of their boardroom, essentially, virtually or physically, and so that strategy is quite new to me. Was quite new to me, and I found it quite challenging to think like that, and to think that I had the knowledge to dare to sit on the board with the chairman and the CFO, etc. And now I know that I actually have got something to bring to the table. I don't know what they know, but I know something different, and I've got a particular way of dealing with situations, which is why I'm in the position I'm in. So you kind of feel as if, well, that seat's for me, I'm going to take it, rather than, oh, I'm not sure, I'll just wait for them to ask me. It's completely this is how it manifests with me.
I love that. And there's that sense, because metaphorically you're on the board as well, whatever level you're at, right? You're being asked to have, as you said, previously to me, the challenger approach of actually being able to challenge certain concepts, and not just, oh yes, it's the client and they're always right, and make sure we give them this and give them that.
Yeah, which is a really difficult thing to do. And what I was talking about earlier about feeling quite stung when I've had some negative feedback, that will happen, because business people will tell you that's nonsense, rubbish, and you've got to know that's their opinion about that particular thing that I've said. So just go back and try something else. And whereas before I'd be like, no, I had enough, I'm off. They don't like me, they hate me.
So what did the coaching give you then to handle that situation, to continue to challenge clients?
Because I know that it's not a personal thing. I know that those individuals were having a relevant response to something that they'd heard, And it's not a school playground. They don't hate me. They don't think I smell bad and, I've got terrible clothes, which is all this nonsense that was previously going out, not quite as obtuse as that. But, I would really take it personally. And now, I think of it completely differently. And I can kind of hopefully see all of the factors that are contributing to responses and understand how to improve and go back better and stronger with something that something that's an idea that's more developed, that's more in line with what the customer wants and what I can do. And that's amazing to see, actually, that response in me.
And we talked about possibilities, and we call ourselves possibilists, and you talked about your co-possibilists, which I love, in the inner circle kaleidoscope that you're in. What is possible now that seemed impossible when you started in the inner circle?
I thought it was completely impossible to do my job to the best of my ability whilst looking after my kids the way I wanted to, and running my house the way I wanted to, and feeding them how I wish. And now that's completely possible. And some days, external factors will get involved, and something will have to bump out, obviously not the children, but maybe cooking a meal for them will just have to go by the sidelines that day. And instead of going, oh my goodness, I'm not giving them healthy food today, instead of flapping about it, it's fine. I'll just make sure that tomorrow or the next day they do get a healthy meal. And if I have to go to Marks and Spencer's and buy one of their healthy prepackaged meals off the shelf to do that, I will do it, and I won't feel guilty. And that's an amazingly liberating feeling to have. Because I was a new mum as well. I had no idea what I was doing. So kind of that's been incorporated in my, in my learning from the inner circle, that I do know what I'm doing. Millions of women before me felt the same and didn't think they could do it. And now we're doing it, plus full-time job, and enjoying it and not actually feeling overburdened at all.
I love that. So if you were to describe the inner circle in 3 words, what would you say?
Oh gosh. So enlightening, and it's fun. It's fun. Am I allowed to say fun? I find it fun.
Of course.
And enlightening, fun, and just relieving. I feel relieved every time I have a chat with the guys there and you, and I kind of almost think, oh thank God it's time for the inner circle, kind of when the time comes, like, oh thank God.
And if someone was thinking of investing in themselves in the inner circle, what advice would you give them if they're feeling inspired by your story of spinning plates as a mom, as a banker, as someone in industry with clients, and doing it with this calm, wonderful new approach? What would you say to them?
I think lots of people in my position wouldn't hesitate to provide this kind of self-calm and self-understanding for people that they loved. So why not start with yourself first? Because if you feel like that yourself, it will rub off on your family, and
I love
it's
that.
super important.
And if you were in the position of someone in corporate who was buying this for their team or people in their business, whether it's HR or an actual leader in the business, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say, if you're looking for something that will work quickly and that your team will seriously love you for and be much happier as a result, then this is what you need to invest in.
Amazing. It's been a privilege Privilege watching you journey through this transformation, Kathryn. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for you, the next adventure in the world of Kathryn. Thank you for your time today.
No problem. Thanks, Peter.